Well, Sherry, I'm so glad for our conversation today, for the community to get to meet you and to kind of get to hear what you do, but really to learn from you, as a lot of us in the community, we're at different stages of building a business, and to kind of understand, as we build businesses, we need help, and how do we find the right help at the right time in those different stages. So before we dive into some of that, will you share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So my name is Sherry Murtaza. I am a director of business development at EasyTeams, which is a virtual assistant service. And we're a California registered company. I've been in the industry for a good 9 years now in total. I've been running this company for 2 years. And prior to that, I've been an operations manager into different offshore projects, as well as being a virtual assistant myself in the beginning of my career. So I've seen both ends of the road.
That's awesome. No, yeah. And as the world continues, virtual becomes more and more accessible. It's a really powerful tool in building our businesses, but sometimes it can be one that's a little hard to navigate, especially I think for a first time. But even as people kind of say, "Oh, I had someone who did this thing, but can someone do this other thing?" And maybe sometimes as we get into it, I wonder, I think sometimes I even went in our conversation, I realized there were things that's like, "Oh, I didn't know a VA could do
Mhm.
that." And it's
Yeah.
and so I'm excited to kind of maybe open wider what's possible for a lot of our community members as we jump in. So, but
Absolutely. It's
yeah.
funny, David. Most people
Mhm.
don't realize how much help they can actually get out of virtual assistant until they start talking about it. I
Yeah.
mean, there are too many unnecessary tasks on our plate that are not necessary for our presence to be in it or for us to do, like
Right.
admin work or follow-up calls, something that is just tedious day-to-day task, important, but not for us to do necessarily. So if
Right.
we have enough tasks, those can be delegated. And we don't really take out the time in our day-to-day to think about those that we can offload from our plate.
Yeah. No, I think so. Yeah, we just kind of think, hey, I got to get it all done, and
Yeah.
we're not
Prioritizing.
evaluating that, and yeah, and prioritizing, kind of triaging, go, oh wait, I'm the
Yeah.
only one who can do this, and a lot of times we think there's a lot more in that bucket than there actually is, you know.
Yeah.
But well, cool. Well, let's kind of jump into our different stages in the framework and kind of see, okay, how does this play out? What does this look like in each stage? So the first stage is our existential stage. So this is at the very beginning of really kind of coming to this idea of like, what is my business? What problem do I want to solve? Who do I want to help? Why does that matter to me? And then some of it's like, okay, what are my offerings? How am I maybe different than others? What am I going to deliver? And really like all of that culminates with this kind of solution statement where it's like, okay, I know exactly the problem I'm solving. I know how to describe that to somebody else. Now, that doesn't mean you're actually selling anything at this point, but it's really more in that
Mhm.
formative. That's why we call it existential. It's like, what business is going to exist? So at this point, probably don't have a lot of employees or any,
Yeah.
but what should someone be thinking about maybe as they're beginning to imagine their deliverables and starting to think about some of their offers in that stage? What should they be thinking about when it comes to expanding their team and especially maybe in the area of virtual assistants?
Yeah. It's a very cool word that you use, existential stage. Um, to build on that, so most business owners or entrepreneurs who are starting their own work could take them a couple of years for their work to pick up, and they don't really realize what their time is worth, right, as they go along. After 9 years in the industry, I can attest to this that every business is good for virtual assistants work.
Hmm.
As long as it can be done remotely or on a laptop, it can be outsourced, right? But to analyze the situation on what you can outsource or if you have enough bandwidth to outsource or not yet, the
Right.
first question you need to ask yourself, what is your per hour worth? I mean, it's the most simple thing that I ask my clients.
Mm.
Are you $100 employee per hour? Are you a $40 employee? Right. Now, the task in front of you, is it worth $100 an hour to do?
Mm.
Right. That's the best question you can ask yourself. Let's say if it's just sending out mass emails as newsletters or newsletter emails or just sending out reminder emails for upcoming payment, something of that sort. Now, what is that task worth? Now, if that task can be done by a $10 an hour employee, then you, a $40 an hour employee or a $100 an hour resource, should be doing it or not. Is it a good use of your time? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
So,
a great, and I imagine too in that stage because it's there's still a lot of dreaming going on. Some of it
mhm,
even is kind of figuring out, because more isn't always better with certain things. And I
yeah,
think a lot of times it's easy later on in the stages to be like, oh, I want my business to be bigger, and all of a sudden it's like, man, I'm working so much, and so I think in along the
yeah,
lines of what you're saying, I can also see like a founder imagining like, okay, like I know there's going to be a lot of hours and there's going to be a lot of work because that's what launching
mhm,
and designing a business is going to take. But also thinking about like, oh, if I could consider like what's my time worth and only do the things that
yeah,
make sense, could I actually build this business not just selling my soul for time kind of
yeah,
scenario, but really go, oh, what would that look like at X number of hours a week, and
mhm,
really begin to kind of work backwards from like thinking about like, oh, what do I actually want the whole of my life to look like
mhm,
as I
yeah,
solve these problems, as I bring this solution to the world, and then go, well, okay. How do I start to work backwards? Now might not have all the pieces to start calculating that, but I think
yeah,
along the lines of like, hey, what's your time worth? That's
yeah,
that's part of that same equation, I imagine there.
yeah. That's like the first tiny step you take towards understanding your worth before
Hmm.
you understand the money that you're making and seeing in terms of putting a value on it. It just makes it easier
Hmm.
for us, our human brains. We
Yeah.
understand it terms better when there's a dollar amount on it.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to quantify than
It's a
quality
lot
time.
easier to quantify. Yes.
You're like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's really important.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, if
so,
you're picking up your kids from school on some basic paperwork that could be done by a $10, $13 an hour employee sitting offshore,
mhm.
do you want to miss that?
Right. Yeah. No, I don't want to miss it. No, yeah. I'd much rather spend that time with my kids. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that even, yeah, even though we're not doing any hiring necessarily at this stage, really thinking about and trying to work backwards and design like, okay, not only what problem do I want to solve, but how do I want this to integrate with the whole of my life? So I love that framing of it.
Yeah. And
Well,
then
let's
maybe listing those tasks in the day.
mhm,
Take the time, take a month or so, observe yourself and see, okay, this is a task that someone else can do, and I can utilize my
mhm,
time on something else. Write it down, right?
mhm.
And then make a couple of tasks, and at the end of the month, see how many hours do all these tasks consumed from me, someone who
Right.
knows how to do it. So let's give a margin of an extra 30 minutes on each task for someone new to do it. Okay, now
Hmm.
let's calculate the hours. This is how much I can delegate from
Hmm.
my month.
Yeah, because maybe there is actually to your point, maybe there still is actually work even early on that can be delegated.
Yeah,
So that's even, maybe for me that was a limiting belief from like, oh no, we don't need any extra help here. But like you're saying,
yeah,
even in these formative stages, it's like there's probably work to be done that
yeah,
probably shouldn't be giving substantial time and attention to. And it's like, oh wait, I could outsource that and reallocate that time and attention even in that early stage. So
yeah.
yeah, no, that's
So
really
building
helpful.
that structure takes nothing out of you in the beginning stages as well.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's really good. All right, well, let's step to the next one because we got a good number to walk through here. Well, as we kind of wrap up, Sherry, are there any other just things you'd want to say to founders, um, just to really kind of whether it's to just guide, to inform, to encourage as they're thinking about how do they manage talent? How do they outsource? How do they offshore? How do they figure out, one of the things we talked about a number of times was how do they determine the value of their time? Like anything you kind of want to close with as we're talking to founders here.
Okay, so even if you've just started thinking about starting a company, or if it's been a
Mhm.
couple of years in, or if you've reached the sustainability stage or the scalability stage, any stage you're at, do network a lot,
Mhm.
not just to grow your business, but also to you never know who you're going to run into, and they're going to say share an experience with you that is going to resonate with you and
Mhm.
help you grow or do things better.
Yeah.
So, do you talk and network with other business owners around you? One. And don't give up on your dream just because it gets overwhelming or if it feels like it's too much on the plate right now. Not
Mhm.
every day is going to be the same. It's going to be like 200% stressful on one day, and then the next day maybe is 1,000% stressful. Well, that's what we signed up for.
Yeah,
That's what we
no, that's
chose.
a good reminder.
So, yeah, and just give yourself a little breathing time in between. Find, ask for help from around, from
Mhm.
people. There's no shame in asking for help if you're someone who's new to starting their business or if you've been in the business for quite some years, so there's no harm in asking for help. Ask for help from around business coaches, life coaches, therapists, anyone that you need. If you need a power group, power partners, anyone that you feel you can comfortably talk to those people. You'll
Yeah.
find a solution.
No, I appreciate that's a great exhortation, Sherry, and it really complements well with what we've been talking about. Of you're really, it's again, it's like, okay, if I have this dream, who's going with me? Because we, especially I feel like here in the West, we have this kind of like Lone Ranger version of the founder that's like, I know how to do
Yeah,
all the things, and I'm gonna bootstrap and figure it all
yeah,
out, and whatever method. But really, no, it's always a team. Even when it
yeah.
looks like one person out front, it's a team. And so I
It's a team.
appreciate, even as we've talked about more on the internal, like, how do I offshore these tasks? But I love how you frame that in. It's like, hey, you also have a community that you're walking in this with, people who are speaking into that, people who
Yeah,
are encouraging, keeping you accountable, providing guidance. That
absolutely.
really, that when we think about team, it's a much bigger circle that we're drawing. Um,
Yeah.
so.
And we humans, I feel, are always a work in progress. If any one of us thinks that we're completed, we've learned it all, we're fooling ourselves. We're
Yeah.
constantly learning something new, and
Mhm.
the more we stay humble about it, the better for us, because then we'll actually reach out to people around us or try learning a thing or two, pick a thing or two
Mhm.
from others around us. Doesn't matter if we're 20 or 60, we're constantly learning something every day. So we need to be just open to it and, embrace change.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's really good. Well, thank you so much for sharing with the community. I've
Yeah.
really enjoyed getting to know you also and getting to learn more about. I remember our first conversation, it kind of blew my mind on how much was possible to offshore and even, how early in the journey it's like, oh, I guess I don't have to wait. I think that's often a pitfall that I know myself, but I see other founders as we coach founders like fall into is like, oh, I need to wait till here to start doing that. And just so, yeah, I think that's been fun that I've learned from you is just both how accessible it can be, but also like, yeah, there's so many more things, more ways that I can find the help I need than I realized. So I appreciate you sharing today, sharing that with our community. I'm excited to see how that helps them build new things that makes the world better. So thanks a ton.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, David.